Gnostic Church of Christ. In this video, we're beginning the first read and commentary of the text from Codex V, the book titled Acts of Peter and the 12 Apostles. As usual, before we begin our read and commentary, let's provide a backdrop of this text. The Acts of Peter and the 12, or the Acts of Peter and the 12 Apostles, is a Christian text from about the 4th century. It is the first treatise in Codex VI of the Nag Hammadi library texts. Taking up pages 1 through 12, the Codex is 78 pages. The writing extends the parable of the pearl from Matthew 13:45 and 46. In the text, Peter the Apostle meets a pearl merchant named Lithargoal, who is later revealed to be Jesus. Jesus commands the apostles to care for the poor. I'm going down to the bottom of this particular write-up, and it summarizes nicely the three main points of this text. First is emphasizing endurance. Second, renunciation of the world. And finally, healing both the body and the spirit. Now let's continue to the parable written in the canonical text from Matthew chapter 13. And I'm going to skip down to verse number 10 and first talk about the purpose of parables. And Christ lays that out for us in this particular chapter and verse where he says, "And the disciples came and said to him, 'Why do you speak to them in parables?'" He's specifically talking about people in general. Apostles want to know, why do you not just speak directly to them? Why do you bring up all these parables? He answered and said to them, "Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, 'Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull. Their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For assuredly I say to you that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it." What is it that Christ is trying to emphasize here? Speaking in parables allows truth be heard through those parables, and those that do not understand reveal themselves. And it is often those who then reveal themselves also reveal their sickness, ultimately by virtue of the results of them not being able to hear or see what it is that they're hearing and seeing. And that highlights the difference between emphasizing sin versus emphasizing gnosis. And Christ always absolutely brings out getting rid of laws, getting rid of this idea of man is wretched and no good and sins, and the tyrannical Old Testament God versus a God of love who allows things freely to marinate through experience and wisdom, to reveal that which we sow, we reap freely. And we have a choice about that. And this is what Christ is basically saying. He's saying that these people, because they don't see, because they have ignorance, they don't have gnosis, they don't gain. They lose, in fact. But it is in that I am sharing this parable that then lays the seed for which they can then have healing, ultimately. And this is really ultimately the purpose of this parable, is to again imply the difference between the Old Testament God versus the true Father's approach to healing. And then it goes on and bring about various different parables, such as the sower and the seed, and how he brings out 4 examples of types of people and how they live. And they never find the gift that's within them, that's seated within them, their accomplishment, their mission, that they're brought here to this realm to fulfill, to find fulfillment within. and therefore they're never released from this realm because they hang on to things of this realm, believing this illusion is what's real, not realizing the only real thing is the spirit within, that seed within, the Christ, the hope of glory. And so people cling to the temporal, the thing that ultimately rusts and blows away and dies, versus the eternal spiritual seed that's within all of us. Then he goes on and brings out the wheat and the tares parable. Really, again, is bringing out the difference between those that find gnosis versus those that stay in ignorance. In the parable of the mustard seed is one's imagination, one's ability to see what's possible beyond what you can see. And that's another way of translating the word faith. In the parable of the leaven, in the kingdom of heaven is like leaven, when a woman took and hid in 3 measures of till until it was leavened. This is referring to patience, ultimately. It's not something you're going to find is going to raise you up, you can see, but it's the chemistry that you can't see that's within that bread, of the alchemical formula that brings about the ascension or the rising of the dough. And then he goes on and talks about the prophecy and the parables in general. I will utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. So he's going to share this. He goes on and talks about the parable of the tares, and the hidden treasure. And that's when he gets to the parable that's emphasized in the book text that we're getting ready, the Gnostic text we're getting ready to read and comment on. And that's the parable of the great price. And he brings up a prelude to that when he talks about the parable of the hidden treasure. Verse 44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. The gift that we have, each one of us, is buried within us very deeply. It's so hidden away from the archons, away from the enemies, away even from ourselves, so that we may destroy it. But it is only revealed slowly, and we must buy into it slowly. We must buy the whole field. We must commit ourselves fully to the task of bringing forth the accomplishment. And once we've done that, then we utilize all of the necessary ingredients of the soil of the Konoma, and therefore we have no further use of it, and we return. And so he goes on and talks about, in verse 45, Christ says, again, the kingdom of heaven, emphasizing, is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. So he puts all his investment into that pearl. Now, what is that pearl? It's Christ, the hope of glory within. See, the Christ is the hope within, is the hope of all. The Christ within is that seed. It is that very thing, that very purpose, the very mission by which differentiates you from everybody else, that you don't want to sell out and make yourself into a harlot or a whore to this world, you see. Either that through the left-hand path of everything is related to the lust of the flesh, or you want to go dogmatic on the right-hand path and adhere to law because of fear of a tyrannical God or whatnot. And so this parable is really the emphasizing how difficult it is for people to understand why they're even here and to be able to see and tap into that truth. Not only that layer, but getting even deeper into the onion that ultimately makes people cry, to be able to find this great pearl that's within them. That very reason they're here, that seed, is so difficult to find, and not only difficult to find, but even more difficult to hold on to and commit to, and to put everything else aside in terms of priority and commit yourself fully to that, focused with great intention. And that's the whole point of being faithful, you see, learning that practice of committing to that task that you were brought here to fulfill. This then is something even the most learned have a difficult time recognizing. And so this is what we're going to find. When the apostles see this merchant and don't recognize who he is. All right, let's go ahead and go to that text. Okay, let's just briefly, before we go there, I want to just read this right up about that parable we just read, the parable of the pearl. And let's go down here and talk about why Christ chose a pearl rather than any other jewel in order to represent the value of what he's trying to articulate to those that can hear and see. And I'm going down to the middle of this particular write-up, and it talks about how valuable the pearl was at the time of when Christ had walked the earth. It says here that this pearl is generally interpreted as illustrating the great value of the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's also the Christ, the fulfillment, the pleroma within. That is of great value. Theologian E.H. Plumtree, in Anglican Bishop Charles Ellicott's commentary, notes that the caprices of luxury in the Roman Empire had given a prominence to pearls as an article of commerce which they had never had before, and have probably never had since. They, rather than emeralds and sapphires, were the typical instance of costliest adornments. The story of Cleopatra and the fact that the opening of a new pearl market was one of the alleged motives which led Emperor Claudius to invade Britain are indications of the value that was then set on the goodly pearls of the parable. This is why Christ chose that specific jewel, because it was so highly prized at that time. All right, with that backdrop, let's go ahead and begin our reading commentary. I'm reading from the translation provided by Douglas M. Parrott and R. McWilson. Now, again, as common, we're going to find many dots. So when I say that, I'm referring to pieces of the text that are missing. So this text is not an exception, and it has many fragmentary parts. And it even starts with that, which, purpose, after, us, apostles, So this is sort of implying a in media res is the beginning of this text. They're on the way to somewhere. They did something, and now after that, this is what happened. We sailed, of the body. Others were not anxious in their hearts, and in our hearts we were united. We agreed to fulfill the ministry to which the Lord appointed us, and we made a covenant with each other, that they would be one body and one mind. They would follow through on spreading the good news that Christ had asked them to spread. And again, this is the way it's written by whoever wrote this text. But remember, they used the word Lord, but Christ had always asked them not to use that term because he didn't want to be worshipped. And it even closes this particular text when he asked them get off their feet when they try to worship him when he leaves. It goes on and says, we went down to the sea at an opportune moment, which came to us from the Lord. We found a ship moored at the shore ready to embark, and we spoke with the sailors of the ship about our coming aboard with them. They showed great kindliness toward us, as was ordained by the Lord. And after we had embarked, we sailed a day and a night. After that, a wind came up behind the ship and brought us to a small city in the midst of the sea. Now they're taking a great journey to get to this experience. You can kind of see it's like an adventure, right? And I, Peter, inquired about the name of the city from residents who were standing on the dock. A man amongst them answered, saying, the name of the city is habitation, that is, foundation, endurance. So everything already is opening up with foreshadowing. This is a place of permanence, a place of stability and certainty. It's foundation. It endures. It's a place of home, habitation. And the leader among them holding the palm branch at the edge of the dock, implying again peace, right? And after we had gone ashore with the baggage, I went into the city to seek advice about lodging. A man came out wearing a cloth bound about his waist, and a gold belt girded it. Also a napkin was tied over his chest, extending over his shoulders and covering his head in his hands. I was staring at the man because he was beautiful in his form and stature. There were 4 parts of his body that I saw, the soles of his feet and a part of his chest and the palms of his hands and his vestige. These things I was able to see. A book cover like those of many books was in his left hand. A staff of styrax wood was in his right hand. His voice was resounding as he slowly spoke, crying out in the city, pearls, pearls. I indeed thought he was a man of that city. I said to him, my brother and my friend. He answered me, then saying, rightly did you say, my brother and my friend. What is it you seek from me? I said to him, I ask you about lodging for me and the brothers also, because we are strangers here. He said to me, for this reason have I myself just said, my brother and my friend, because I also am a fellow stranger like you. And having said these things, he cried out, pearls, pearls. The rich men of that city heard his voice. They came out of their hiding storerooms, and some were looking out from the storerooms of their houses. Others looked out from their upper windows, and they did not see that they could gain anything from him, because there was no pouch on his back, nor bundle inside his cloth and napkin. In other words, Christ looked like a crazy man, just running around saying pearls, pearls, pearls. But he had nothing that he was holding. He had no pearls that he was actually holding. So people just saw him as crazy. They couldn't see the pearls. Again, analogizing that the common man won't be able to see whatever message that Christ is proclaiming. They will likely just see him as some crazy man wandering around because they can't see what he's actually presenting or offering. And because of their disdain, they did not even acknowledge him. He, for his part, did not reveal himself to them. They returned to their storeroom, saying, "This man is mocking us." And the poor of that city heard his voice, and they came to the man who sells this pearl. Now, this is interesting because the poor want to be wealthy, right? But they dream of being wealthy, and so they're able to see wealth in their minds, though they can't see it manifest in the real world. But the rich, they see the real, and therefore it's more difficult for them to imagine what is not real. This is what's, in my opinion, is being implied here, where the poor are more likely to hear the message of the Christ because they can see hope, and they want to see hope because they feel hopeless. Therefore, they can only but see hope in order to have a reason to continue. They said, "Please take the trouble to show us the pearl so that we may then see it with our own eyes. For we are poor, and we do not have this ... price to pay for it. But show us that we might say to our friends that we saw a pearl with our own eyes." And again, it's referring to how rare it was to find a pearl at that time, right, in this place. He answered, saying to them, "If it is possible, come to my city, so that I may not only show it before your very eyes, but give it to you for nothing." Now that's interesting, right? Christ is directing them to come to the city. In other words, let's see what kind of effort you're going to make. And are you going to have the imagination, the faith? You're going to believe in what I say? Do you have faith in what I'm offering you? Is your imagination great enough to motivate you to move and go after the pearl? As a matter of fact, the very thing that you think you're seeking is not the thing that you really want. The pearl actually is something else altogether. It says, "I'm going to offer it to you for free." And indeed they, the poor of that city, heard and said, "Since we are beggars, we surely know that a man does not give a pearl to a beggar, but it is bread and money that is usually received. Now then, the kindness which we want to receive from you is that you show us the pearl before our eyes. And we will say to our friends proudly that we saw a pearl with our own eyes." And you see these people are trying to negotiate with Christ. Well, they're like, "We don't want to go all this way and follow you. We want you to show it to us now, because it is not found among the poor, especially such as beggars as these." He answered and he said to them, "If it is possible, you yourselves come to my city, so that I may not only show you it, but give it to you for nothing." This again seems to indicate how difficult it is for people in this world to imagine things that are free are the best things in life. This is kind of what you're seeing, how it's difficult for people to imagine. We're always suspicious of anyone that's offering something for free, if we but just make a little bit of an effort to receive it. The poor and the beggars rejoice because of the man who gives for nothing. It goes on and says, "The man asked Peter about the hardships. Peter answered and told those things that he had heard about the hardships of the way, because they are interpreters of the hardships in their ministry." So these hardships referred to is how the difficulties of life often get in the way of us being able to imagine that's ever going to be a good time. So we grow cynical and we get bruised and injured, or we become deflected or dejected, or we give up. He said to the man who sells this pearl, "I want to know your name and the hardships of the way to your city, because we are strangers and servants of God. It is necessary for us to spread the word of God in every city harmoniously." He answered and said, "If you seek my name, Lithargoal is my name, and the interpretation of which is the light gazelle like stone. And also concerning the road to the city, which you asked me about, I will tell you about it. No man is able to go on that road, except one who has forsaken everything that he has, and has fasted daily from stage to stage. For many are the robbers and wild beasts on that road, the one who carries bread with him on the road. The black dogs kill because of the bread. The one who carries a costly garment of the world with him, the robbers kill because of the garment. The one who carries water with him, the wolves kill because of the water, since they were thirsty for it." So you see Christ is implying, don't carry anything with you. Don't have any expectations. Don't carry expectations with you. Go freely and free yourself. Do the work. Follow the path, the way. And that's it. and allow it to show itself to you freely. The one who is anxious about meat and green vegetables, the lions eat because of the meat. See, all of these cares and worries, anxiety, fears, and I got to bring all this stuff with me, and I want this outcome, and I want it to turn out like this. These are going to drive you crazy. It's going to ultimately kill you. Maybe not literally, definitely metaphorically, or spiritually, or emotionally, intellectually, and even that may add to a stress that can somehow impact your overall health and well-being, right? If he evades the lions and the bulls devour him because of the green vegetables. So we're going to leave it there. You can see that already Christ is setting out another parable about how when we are seeking out that great pearl that's within, we've got to let go of expectation. We've got to let go of everything, and we've got to make it priority, and we've got to commit ourselves fully to it, and we have to have faith. The pearl is going to be there if we but believe and have faith that whatever we ask, and if we put forth the work, then it will be given. It may not show up in the way and the time that we expect, but it will be given. You see, it will show up. That's what I'm getting for this. All right, so we're going to leave it there, and we'll pick back up in the next text, in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a blessed day.